In this video, we're going to be working on some decimal division word problems. So the most important thing to remember when you are working on word problems that could end in decimals or really division word problems at all is to remember that the number that is being divided, the thing that is being cut up, is always inside the dividend house. So the number that's being divided up. So let's say I have 8 cups of cereal that I want to pour evenly into 2 bowls. Yes, it's a super simple problem, but I know that my 8 is going to go inside the division house because I'm not cutting up the bowls and giving it to the cereal. I'm separating up or cutting up the cereal and giving it to the bowls. So the number that you are actually cutting up is going to go inside the division house. Even if it's a smaller number, I could have said I have 2 cups of cereal into 8 bowls. If I had said that, we would have the 2 on the inside, 8 on the outside, and all I would have to do is add a decimal and a 0. 8 into 20, and you could get that figured out. So remember, whatever you are dividing up needs to go inside the division house. It is the dividend. All right, we have 4 problems as our notes today. Let's jump into them. The first problem says Mikey spent $42 on 4 new footballs. How much was each football if they all cost exactly the same? So the 2 numbers I've got right here are $42 and 4 footballs. I did not cut up the footballs and give it to the money. I have to divide up the money to see how much money goes with each football. So that tells me that the thing I'm dividing up is the money. So that's going to go in the dividend house and be the dividend. And I'm trying to divide up that money and figure out how much goes with each football. So that means that the football is the divisor and goes outside. Now that we have this set up, remember the number you are splitting up goes inside the dividend. Let's go ahead and divide. Remember, we are going to divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. I know that 4 divided by 4 is 1. I divided. Let's multiply. 1 times 4 is 4. Time to subtract and bring down. Remember, we don't have remainders anymore. So 2 divided by 4, I know that's 0. 0 times 4 is 0. Let's subtract. No more remainders. So I'm going to add a decimal and a 0 and bring it down. Remember, I can add a 0 because the number 42 is exactly the same as 40. This is like money. $42 is exactly the same as $42.00. So I can add as many zeros as I want to as long as I place that decimal point. All right, so let's bring down that 0. 20 divided by 4, I know that is 5. 5 times 4 is 20. And there we go. Now remember, we have to bring our decimal point straight up from where it is. So my answer is $10.05. How can I make that look more like money? We're going to add that 0. So instead of saying $10.05, we're going to say $10.50. $10.50. And remember, that works for money because there are 100 pennies in a dollar. So this is saying 50 pennies. Half of that dollar, $10.50. Anyway, that was kind of random, but let's move on. You should have gotten $10.50 with me on that one. The next one says 126 books in 12 months. How many books did she read per month? All right. We have to decide, are we splitting up the books or splitting up the months? So if I split up the months, I would split up the months and give it to the books. That doesn't quite make sense. So I'm going to be splitting up the books to figure out how many books she read each month. So we're going to split up those books. 126 books divided into 12 different months. 12 different months. We're splitting up those books and giving a certain number of books to each month. Let's go ahead and divide. 12 divided by 12 is 1. 1 times 12 is 12. Please make a note. Look where I put that 1. 12 can't go into 1. I could put a little 0 there. But I have to put the 1 over the 2. Remember, when we're dividing and we could get decimals, it is so important to put your quotient number right above the number that you're dividing. So 12 can go into 12 one time. Let's subtract. bring down that 6. 6 divided by 12 is 0. 0 times 12 is 0. I've got a remainder of 6, but we don't have remainders anymore. Add that big old decimal point and a 0. Bring it down. 60. I think I know my 12s. I'm going to remember them. I'm going to say 12 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10. 5, 60. Good. So I know it goes in 5 times. 5 times 12 is 60. No remainder. So now let's take a look at that decimal point. We're going to bring it straight up from where it is. And I know that she read 10 and 5/10 books per month. That's a lot of books. She read 10 and 5/10 book per month. Now remember, the way we're reading this is 5/10, and I know that 5/10 is also equal to 1/2. So you could say she read 10.5 books per month as well. Let's move on. I'm going to have you try this one. It can be a little bit tricky, so I'm going to read it to you. Marco has 27 ounces of trail mix that she wants to split evenly between herself. Oh, wow, Marco's a girl now? That's okay. And 7 friends. Exactly how much will each person get? All right, so 2 tricky things. 1, you have to decide what you're splitting up. It kind of tells you. And you have to decide how many piles you're going to be splitting it up into. Be careful with that one. Go ahead and try it out. All right, for this one, the first thing you should have decided is we're splitting up that 27 ounces of trail mix. It does tell you right here, 27 ounces of trail mix that she wants to split. So I know that 27 is going to go inside the dividend house because it is our dividend. Herself and 7 friends. Ooh, I hope you divided it by 8. Because if she has 7 friends and herself, she wants to divide it with 8 people. All right, let's go ahead and try this one out. I know that 27 divided by 8 is 3 because 3 times 8 is 24. Subtract, you have 3 left. We don't have remainders anymore. Decimal and a 0. Bring down that 0. 8 can go into 33 times because 3 times 8 is 24. And I know that 4 times 8 is 32, and that's too big. 30 minus 24 is 6. Uh-oh, no remainders. Add another 0. Make sure you notice I'm not adding another decimal point. You can't have more than 1 decimal point in a number, but you can have lots of zeros at the end. Go ahead and drop it down. 60 divided by 8. I know that 6 times 8 is 48. So 7 times 8 must be 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. That's probably as close as I'm going to get. So 7 times 8 is 56. Let's subtract. 60 minus 56 is 4. Can't have a remainder. Add another 0. Bring it down. This is why it's important to remember to write kind of small when you're doing division. I've noticed that some of you like to write on the right whiteboards, and you write so big it doesn't fit in the box, doesn't fit on the board. You have to write pretty small when you're doing division. 40 divided by 8 is 5. I'm going to go ahead and bring my line longer. 5 times 8 is 40. Let's subtract. So let's take a look at that decimal point. Oh, let's get the pink. Bring it straight up. My answer is 3 375 thousandths ounces of trail mix. It's a lot to divide it into, but that is the answer we got with no remainders. Let's go ahead and jump into this last problem. It says John drove 576 miles yesterday. If he drove 60 miles an hour, how many hours did he drive for? Now, these can look a little tricky. You've got to be a little careful with these. Think about what you're really going to be splitting up and giving to the other number. Go ahead and try it out. For this one, I can either split up the fact that he drove 60 miles an hour, or I can split up the number of miles he drove. I'm going to split up the number of miles he drove. I'm going to say 576 miles in my dividend house, because it's my dividend, divided by 60 miles. Already you're like, oh, that's a big number. So let's go ahead and try it out. I know that 60 can't go into 5, and 60 can't go into 7. So I have to figure out how many times 60 can go into 567. I'm going to guess 6 times because 60 is less than 100. And if it was 100, it could go in 5 times. So I'm going to guess 6. It might be 7. Let's try 60 times 6, 360. Wow, that was way too low. How about 60 times 8? 480. Let's try 60 times 9. 0, 540. I don't think it could go in again. Well, it can't because I can't have 10. So let's try 9. And I know that 60 times 9 is 540. Let's subtract 6. 7 minus 4 is 3. Decimal, add a 0. Bring it down. 360. And look, I kept my work over here. So I already know that 60 times 6 is 360. So I know that 360 divided by 60 is 6. 6 times 60 is 360. And we're done. Let's bring up that decimal point. Right straight up, a little high there, but that's okay. 9 6/10 hours. Looks good, looks good. I hope you got the same answer. If you did not, make sure you are double checking all your work and raise your hand if you still have questions about how you got it wrong.